Welcome to a demonstration of how to randomise couples into the eFreeze trial. Randomisation is the method by which couples are entered into the trial and allocated one of the two interventions, either fresh or frozen transfer, in an unbiased way. In the case of eFreeze, this is done by a computer program which ensures that roughly equal numbers of couples receive each intervention, and it also ensures there are no large imbalances in some subgroups, including the method of insemination and type of infertility. It's a two-stage process. Initially, the details of couples who have consented are entered, and later the details required for randomisation are entered if the couples still meet the eligibility criteria. At each stage, checks for eligibility are performed and ineligible couples cannot be entered. In order to enter data, we need to log in to the NPEU's randomisation website. For this demonstration, I will use our demonstration site at rct.npeu.ox.at.uk/eFreeze demo. This mirrors the real site, but has a pink banner at the top showing clearly demonstration version only. You will be given the login details for your centre, but for the demonstration site, we have generated a set of numbered centres, and I will log in using centre 100. I'll enter the username, which is the same as the centre name but with no spaces, and the password is eFreeze with a hyphen for all centres. Initially, you'll see there are no couples entered, so the only options available are consent couple and screening log, which I'll mention later. As couples are entered, the other options will become enabled. Initially, I will enter consent for a couple where only one partner has signed the consent form. I click on consent couple and answer the question, has consent been obtained from the female partner? Yes. When you select yes, two further questions regarding whether they've consented to contact the GP and consented for long-term follow-up will appear. So if you answer those, in this case, I will say consent has not yet been obtained from the male partner, then enter some dummy data for the date of birth. The next set of questions relate to the eligibility criteria, and they have to be answered yes in the case of are the couple resident in the UK and is this the couple's first cycle, and no for the remaining three items. You type in your name when you complete the section and press continue. At this stage, you can review the data that you've entered, and then in order to enter them, press complete consent, and a study number will be generated for that couple, and that study number must be entered on the consent form. There's a print button, which if you press that, enables you to see the data that you've just entered, and you can either send that to a printer or save it to a file. If I press the back button and get back to this page and select home, that will take me back to the main menu where you can see some of the other options are now enabled. And the second one is complete consent process. All couples where only one partner has consented will be available under this item for the consent process to be completed. I will now select that item to complete, because in this case you'll see here a list of all couples where only one partner has consented, and it shows which one. In order to complete the consent, all you need to do is select the complete consent button. This will bring back up the data that you entered initially, and to complete the consent I now need to answer, has consent been obtained from the male partner? If I select yes, there, select yes for those, go to the bottom and continue, review the data and complete consent. Again, I could print the data again, which now shows that all consent has been entered. I go back to home, you will see now that complete consent process is no longer highlighted. There are no couples where only one partner has consented, and the options for randomise and do not randomise are now available. So I will now go on and show how to randomise that couple that we've just entered. If I select the randomise option, this will list all couples where the consent has been completed. In order to randomise, you just need to select the randomise button. This will again show the data that was entered at the time of consent, but in addition, section B, enrolment, now needs to be filled in. So the first question, was consent reconfirmed verbally on the first day of it? That must be answered yes. How many good quality embryos are there on day 3? In order to randomise, this must be at least 3. And you need to enter the date of start of stimulation, the method of insemination, type of infertility, and the patient reported duration of infertility. So I say 12 months. Again, enter your name and press continue. You can review the data that you've entered. At this point, when you complete randomisation, this couple will be entered into the eFreeze trial and the allocation will be given. So in this case, confirms the study number that was generated at consent, the allocation frozen, thawed embryo transfer in this case, and confirms the date and time of randomisation. If I print, all that information is contained on the printout, which you should print out and store with the patient's notes. If I go back to the home, the main menu, you'll see there's now one couple in the randomised list, which is the couple that we've just entered, and you can go back and print that data at any time. If I enter another couple, select some dummy data. If I get one of these conditions wrong, so I enter delegate being used, if I say yes to that, if I select continue here, you will see that it puts up a message, the answer must be no to continue. You cannot enter ineligible couples. So I change that back to no and continue. Review the data, click on complete consent, and then go back to the main menu. I will show how to remove that couple from the list of those that could potentially be randomised. If, for example, there were not enough good quality embryos on day 3 after egg collection, you would come in and click on the do not randomise. There's a button do not randomise on the list here. If we go to the bottom, section B under no randomisation, you need to enter the reason they were not randomised. So for example, if the number of good embryos was less than 3, has the documentation been destroyed? We do not retain any of the documentation for those couples who are not randomised into the trial. So if you have destroyed that already, just select yes. Enter the name, continue. Again, review the data and select complete non-randomisation. That couple is now in the not randomised list and will not be entered into the trial. And it confirms what the state of the documentation is. And again, you can print out those details or save them to a PDF. The final item on the menu is the screening log, which enables you, if I select that, at the end of each month, you should go in and enter the number who are potentially eligible for eFreeze and the number of couples approached. So if I go for last month, if you enter number of couples who are eligible, how many couples were approached, and save that data, that will be stored. And there's a logout button at the end that takes you out of the site. I'll just show you briefly at the time of entry of couples for randomization, that data is transferred to our main data entry system, which is OpenClinica. And if I refresh this screen by clicking on the subject matrix, you'll see that the study number has been created in this database, and the data that we entered at randomization, if I just view that here, that data has been automatically transferred into our data entry system, which will be shown in a separate video. So that concludes the demonstration of entering data into the consent and randomization program.